How do you define a good value? Is it simply a matter of finding the least expensive option? Or can spending a little more upfront to obtain a superior performing product give you better return on your dollars? Tires with entry-level prices seem appealing on the surface, but how do they perform? Are they a good value, or are they just cheap round and black? The Kumho Ecsta LX Platinum is a long-standing entry in the value price segment, and Tire Rack has recently added two new options, the Laufenn G-Fit AS and Riken Raptor HR. To see how these value price tires stack up against a great bang for your buck alternative, we decided to test them side by side with the General AltiMAX RT43 for a full comparison. Let's see what we found out. To start out the test, I'm driving the General AltiMAX RT43. This tire feels substantial and well put together. It has a good solid on-center steering feel and nice linear response to your steering inputs. There is some noticeable tread growl, but it's not intrusive, and the ride of the General is the firmest of the group. Now I'm driving the vehicle equipped with the Kumho Ecsta LX Platinum. This tire has nice on-road manners. The ride quality is agreeable and it doesn't create very much noise. The steering response is a little slow, but it's still appropriate for the category. The next tire in our test is the Laufenn G-Fit AS. This tire does a good job of isolating from impacts and doesn't really have any objectionable traits, though the steering effort builds in an unnatural and non-linear way, and that definitely hurt its score with our testers. The final tire in our test is the Riken Raptor HR. This tire is very softly damped, so it absorbs bumps well, but it also feels a little unstable during a high-speed lane change or an abrupt maneuver. It's not what we would consider a loud tire, but there is some tread and impact noise that makes its way into the cabin. The four tires in this test were closely matched around our dry track, with a little over 0.4 of a second separating their average laps and about 4 feet between the shortest and longest 50-0 stopping distances. There were subtle differences in the behavior and feel on the track, and all four tires demonstrated the ability to respond in an emergency situation or keep up if the driver decides to take a spirited drive down a lonely back road. As is often the case, wet track testing revealed noticeable differences between the tires in this group. The General AltiMAX RT43 really separated itself from the rest of the pack, with noticeably higher levels of outright grip apparent from the first turn. Its 50-0 stopping distances were 20 feet shorter than the next shortest Kumho, and average lap times were the fastest in the test by over a second. Kumho's Ecsta LX Platinum delivered wet traction levels that were acceptable, but didn't impress our testers. Front-end traction and response seemed to slightly overpower the rear, creating an imbalance that could make the car feel a little edgy during transitions. The traction level of the Riken Raptor HR was low enough that its limits likely would be encountered during normal driving on wet roads. It didn't have any bad habits, but the low limits meant inputs had to be slow and smooth to keep the car balanced. Trailing the rest of the group by a considerable margin, the Laufenn G-Fit AS struggled in all aspects in the wet. Its 50-0 mile-an-hour stopping distances were over 40 feet longer than the General, and its average lap times were 5.5 seconds slower, two figures that represent the weakest wet performance we have ever recorded. In the search for the best value, it can be tempting to go straight to the least expensive option. But sometimes if you spend a little more, you can get a lot more. The General AltiMAX RT43 continues to demonstrate why it's one of the best values in touring tires. It has confidence-inspiring traction in the wet, along with a quiet and comfortable ride on the road. With on-road manners that fit the bill for a Grand Touring all-season tire and acceptable wet traction, the Kumho Ecsta LX Platinum is a reasonable option for someone considering an entry-level tire. The Riken Raptor HR provides a compliant, slightly underdamped experience on the road, combined with wet capabilities that require some care during daily driving. The Laufenn G-Fit AS delivers an acceptable performance on the road and is surprisingly capable on our dry track. But with the worst wet performance we've recorded, we can't consider it a good value. Capability in the ice and snow is another component of the value proposition for any Grand Touring all-season tire, and we're looking forward to the upcoming winter season so we can test all four of these tires to find out how each one performs during the challenge of wintertime driving. As we compare tires side by side, we find each one has its own personality, and it's not as easy as simply choosing between good and bad. So as you view our test results, it's important to focus on your priorities and what fits best with how, where, and what you drive. And also be sure to go to TireRack.com to view our full test report and learn more about the tires featured in this test.